Hi, Paul. Hi, everyone.
Okay, I don't know if Bob is going to be coming into the meeting or not. Do you see it, Mike, at all? No?
No, not
Okay.
yet.
All right, well, it's 5:16 PM. We'll call the meeting to order of the Cumberland School Committee Fiscal Subcommittee meeting Thursday, March 25th of 2021. I'm sorry, March 25th, 2021 at 5:16 PM. In accordance with Governor McKee's Executive Order 21-21 dated March 3rd, 2021, the Cumberland School Committee intends to conduct this meeting remotely. The public can participate in this meeting remotely, but not in person by calling area code 312-626-6799. And our webinar ID is 959-5123-7909, or if you go to the Cumberland School Department website, under the events calendar, you'll find the link to the Zoom meeting, and you can participate that way with the passcode 156765. So the first order of business is approval of the agenda dated, again, Governor's Executive Order dated March 3rd, 2021. So I can see we have one person definitely from the public in here at the meeting, and I see Shauna Spillane as well. So I would say there is adequate public access for the meeting, so I need a motion to approve the agenda.
A motion to approve?
Motion by Kerry
Second.
Smith, second by Mr. Collins. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, 3-0. Next is approval of the minutes from March 11th, 2021. Do we, I know the minutes were sent to Cindy Shabbatz. Do we, everyone get to read those minutes?
Mhm.
Need a motion to approve the minutes?
A motion to approve?
Motion by Mrs. Smith,
Second.
second by Mr. Collins. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it,
Aye.
3-0. Thank you very much. And next is payment of bills. There are no payment of bills tonight. So we do have the business office monthly report. We have Sedesco Food Services. When we take number 6 and possibly number 7, so I'll give Mr. Prignano time, and these two do not have to wait around for us to go through. So let's start with Sedesco Foods. Shauna, are you there?
I'm here. If I could just share my screen, please, Mike.
All set.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Great. So what you have in front of you is our trending for this actually quarter. You can see February to the far right-hand side. Basically, our total gross department costs for February were around $59,000. We did have, obviously, if you can see in the blue column is kind of comparing our total overall year to the budget. So some of the variances obviously include our product, which is up because we are serving more meals than projected. And then again, our labor, which is a little bit higher, again, because we are bringing people back sporadically. As you know, we started with a hybrid program. We've been kind of transitioning to that full in-person. So it has gone up a little bit from what we originally projected last year. So again, our total overall costs are around $369K for the year. With that, again, in February, if you scroll down a little bit, you can see our total revenues were about $87K. You can see that we are obviously taking in our reimbursement for breakfast and for lunch. We are not, all the meals are free this year, so there's no cost associated other than a very small amount in a la carte sales, which just started up recently at the high school, and some other small special functions that have happened over January and February, so small amounts there. Again, you can see comparatively, our breakfast reimbursement is much higher than what we projected with the budget. Again, because all the students are free and we are receiving a higher reimbursement rate for breakfast and for lunch. And again, we are doing a lot of those take-home bags for our students. Every week, we're doing about 150 bags, which each have 3 breakfasts and 3 lunches in them. So you can see that our numbers are just skyrocketing there with that reimbursement rate. So it puts our overall gain for the month at $28K, which kind of levels us out to about a $24,000 overall year-to-date operating net gain. Any questions that anyone has about the revenues or the costs of the departments that we have so far on this spreadsheet?
I don't, does any member of the fiscal subcommittee have any questions? I don't see any. Okay, so let's move on.
Great, thank you.
Okay, that completes your report, Shauna?
It does, unless there's any other questions that the school committee has. I know that, you know, we've actually just been transitioning, increasing our meals at all sites. We are anticipating being 100% full enrollment at the high school in the few following weeks. So again, we are just trending up with meals. We have had some success with hiring and sharing some employees from different districts. So we are looking up in that aspect. And again, we are just trying to, you know, keep the menu very current and providing the favorites for the students, things that they actually, you know, like to see. And I think that that's pretty much just status quo from last month. Are there questions that I can answer about our processes or where we're standing fiscally?
I don't have any at this time. Mrs. Smith?
Yes, thank you. Shauna, I just had a question. If you could just give us an overview of how the experience has been with staffing and with all those students coming back between the elementary and the middle schools. Have we worked out any problems that may have occurred, and are we fully staffed for that already?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a transition. As you know, our industry was hit pretty hard with people returning to work. It was a challenge having everybody laid off for such a long time and bringing them back. And I know I've shared a lot of our bumps in the road throughout this school year. But recently, we have seen some people looking for work and returning to work. Unfortunately, there still is that benefit of staying on unemployment, which unfortunately we're up against. But again, we were using some creative solutions and having employees start at one location and go to a different location, which has been really successful. And also just kind of streamlining some of our processes to be able to, I guess, increase their production, but not increase the labor out of necessity because we didn't have anybody. So we have been running short in some places, example of the high school, but we are obviously just kind of working around that and using different people in different roles to support it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Collins?
Hey, Shauna, I just have a quick question. This is a shot in the dark, but I just downloaded the My Schoolbucks app because my daughter was telling me about whatever she ate at lunch, and I'm like, oh God, I want to make sure there's money on there. There is, but is there any sort of financial incentive for for the district for parents to download the app, or is that just more of a convenience thing?
It's more of a convenience, and it is a third party. It's a service that, just like any other payment, they take a certain percentage per transaction fee or whatever it specifically is. But it's just to obviously increase the online. There's the convenience of having it drawn from your account, sending you certain alerts. It's something that we've been using long before my time in Cumberland and across the nation too.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, sure. All right, thank you. We'll see you next month, I guess.
Great, thanks. Have a nice night.
And Will, we might as well try facilities as well, if there's anything we need to, update, and then we'll go to Mr. Prignano. He'll have the bulk of the report tonight. Go ahead, Mr. DeJesus.
We do have a couple of things. I was able to locate the rep that does some of the playgrounds in our elementary schools. I am going to meet with him on the slide that's at Garvin on Monday. I'm also going to show him that whole punch list that we have for Garvin. Maybe he can give us a price on the whole bulk of the problems over there. And I should have that by Wednesday, Thursday of next week, the quote.
Okay, I was at Garvin today. I didn't notice it again, so, okay.
And then, we did put out in the newspaper today for the new entrance for all the new guidance area down at the high school.
Yeah,
That went out for the paper. And I believe the walkthrough is on Thursday, the 1st.
okay,
And we should be getting those bids in within the 2 weeks as well.
okay. All right, anything else?
That's what I have for you.
Anyone have any questions for facilities? Okay, hearing none, thank you, and good night. You can hang around if you'd like, and then we'll move off to Mr. Prignano.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I just add one thing under facilities. I don't know if Will mentioned or not. We've put the RFP in the paper for that work at the rooms adjoining the high school security project between the auditorium and outside there, those rooms that face the wellness center. So that RFP is out. We've already had 7 people pick it up. So there seems to be some interest in it. We'll just see, we'll see what we get for bids and the rest of it. But that's something we really want to get done so that we can, first of all, the security, it'll eliminate about 90% of the traffic that goes into the high school. And also it'll give the high school some additional classroom space when people who are using classrooms now are able to move down there. So.
And do we know if parking in front of the building is going to be spaces left for the public to come in that way? Because, the last couple of days that I've driven by there, it seems that whole parking lot is full right now.
Well, what we only lost, and maybe Will or Mike remember, but some minimal amount of parking. I think we lost about 5 or 6 parking spaces from what was there before with the new layout, with the gates and the rest of it. So, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, some of the changes are gonna be done at the front, in front of the wellness center. They'll pick up those spaces there for the public because that's where that entranceway is gonna be, as well as the new parking will be for visitors that are in front of the pool area while school's in session.
All right, thank you.
So anyhow, tonight I don't have a necessarily a March report. We haven't finished the month. I don't have any resolutions on. So with the budget season now, with the superintendent submitting his budget to the school committee, I thought tonight I would just walk people through the individual pages so they could talk about some of the things that they'll notice in the budget when they look at it. And then we have, I guess, Tuesday and Thursday next week where you people, after you've had it for a bit, and can ask questions and whatever, and I'll take you a little bit more through the significant budget changes that occurred and whatever. But tonight, let me just, so when you get it, you'll have some idea where things are and what's in the budget. So on the first page, the revenue page, do people have their budget open? It was in their docs.
And what docs?
I guess Cindy Shabbat put it in the school committee folders.
No, I'm in the,
It's actually on the front page. She posted a couple, but it's under the budget folder for FY22. I had to go digging for it as well.
Okay, thanks,
under
Karen.
under the superintendent's proposal. Okay.
Yeah.
So
All right, it's in the superintendent's folder.
I'll wait till people get a second to open that up. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay.
And I think we've also made binders for each of you, hard copy, of the budget and the personnel supplement that we'll get our courier to deliver if if you want them, so that, I like to have something hard in front of me that I can write on and all the rest of it type of thing. So some of you who might want hard copy, we'll make sure we get it to you.
Yep,
All set, Paul?
I'm all set.
Okay. On page 1, I guess the first thing we should point out is the town appropriation of 46,208,000. That number comes from the third column, the 45,576 last year, plus the additional 632 of maintenance of effort money we got last year from the town. So that those two numbers give you the 46,208 that we're starting with this year.
Mhm.
We're requesting an increase of 4%, which would be $1,848,000. You see that number?
Yep,
The next number there, the lease, we used this to try to balance our budget this year. If you recall your monthly reports, I've been showing that as a shortfall in the revenues. I think we can balance our budget without it. And we've asked we've spoken with the mayor and asked that be moved into this year, where we can issue that lease this year. The state aid to education, I'm not sure about this number. This is the number that is in the governor's proposal, but our recent March numbers, I think we're about 89 people down, from homeschooling and that sort of stuff that happened this year. And so what that number ends up shaking out at, we don't know right now, but the governor's number is the best number I have to use. So I'm using that. Over, if you look next to state aid to education on the far left, you see a small 10,310 and under it 4,124. That's the amount of money we're receiving for each child this year. The 10,310 is the core amount, and the 4,124 is the additional money you get for anyone free and reduced, which is another issue. I don't know how they're going to figure that out, because not only us, but everyone you talk to, their free and reduced numbers are way down, because they allowed everyone in the state basically to be able to have access to a meal this year. So a number of people didn't bother filling out the applications. I think we're down, over 200 applications from previous years. So there's talk of doing a 3-year average or hold harmless, but these things are all, as of right now, unknown. Next numbers I would point out that are a little bit different. If you go to the pool rentals and preschool tuitions, they're the bottom third of the page. I've restored those to 2020 levels. Figure in the 21, we made reductions in those accounts. If you recall, we waived the guaranteed payment from Alphabet, and we lowered our tuition estimate for the preschool. I've restored those numbers. Sitting in the middle of that is the tuitions for pathways. We had 41 students last year. We had estimated 600,000. The number is more like 450,000. We report it on a regular basis on our monthly report, a shortfall there. I bumped it up to 500,000. There is some, there are some children from other districts looking to come to Cumberland again. And so that 41 number may grow. And as we know more, we'll adjust that number either upward or downward, depending on what has to happen. I would think, if anything, maybe that number might move upward.
okay.
There's a boulder number 282,150. In talking with the town's healthcare consultant, because with the WB community, we get rebates on prescription, and Cumberland's was due to get, I'm not sure, $66 per person per month, per person per contract, actually. So, Katie Duncanson would be one person, not 4, because she has 2 children and a husband. Alex Prignano would be one person, not my wife wouldn't count, but 66 per contract. Now, that's what I've been told right along this whole budget process. Yesterday, the mayor mentioned he's heard differently, that money's not going to be coming. So I emailed the town's healthcare consultant today, along with the mayor and Bob. I included in that email to ask that question. I didn't hear back from them. Now, it may be they're going to adjust our rate. We have a 5% increase in the budget. Maybe they're not giving us money back, but they're going to apply that to their working rate. Maybe the working rate might come down from the 5%. I'm still exploring that. But at the last conversation I had with with Rob Calisi, who's the town healthcare consultant. He had told me that that money was coming. The next number you see, 300,000. I'm hoping that we run enough of a surplus this year that we can designate that at some portion of the surplus to the curriculum items that we've heard Mr. Damana talk about a number of times that the state is requiring districts to purchase. We estimate about a $1,186,000 purchase over a 3-year period. So this would be a start towards that. And then the last number there, 789. And next month, I hope to, I'm going to review the audit. We've got the audit just the other day, final audit, and we'll go through fund balance and that. We'll go through fund balance and a number of things then. But if you look at the sheet I sent out when we did that budget presentation a couple of months ago, there was a summary in there of what I thought the surplus would look like. And in there, we were designating 789, 372 for use in FY22. And so I've included that in the budget. Any questions on the revenues? I mean, you just got this, I understand this. We'll be getting together Tuesday and Thursday nights. So we can review anything we want again those nights.
Mrs. Smith, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Just if you could give a little bit more information on that rebate for the WB community, because we've been told all along that we're getting that. So
yeah, I've been told in the past, and maybe Katie knows a little something about this because I think Warwick was in WB community or whatever. But what I was told by the town healthcare consultant, the first year you're in the program, you get a cash payment back for your prescription rebates. And years after that, years 2 to whenever you are in the, however many years you're in, once you're established in there, they then take those rebates and they apply it against what your working rate would be that year. So we've been going along with that. We would get this money. This is only 3/4 of it. A part of it is supposed to come in the end of this year, which, and then these are the 3 that would come in, even though they're for this year's use, they won't come in until July and after. So I put 3 of them into next year's budget. Now, if they're not paying that, I mean, we do get prescription rebates. So they're gonna, I would hope that it would be then applied against the working rate. So, and I know the young woman who just went over there to work, she was the business manager in Coventry. I have a good relationship with her, and I wanted to ask Rob Calisi first because he's our consultant. But if I don't find out something from Rob and tomorrow or whatever, I'll reach out to Sarah and ask her what the story is. So we'll know next week when we're taking up the budget where we are with this.
But isn't this part of a contract with them then? Isn't this something?
Yeah, well,
that would have
the
had
town
costs?
the town is in this, has moved from to WB Community for healthcare. We used to be in Remick, and in this you get prescription rebates, which you did in Remick. The stop rate and the insurance prices are somewhat lower because the way they handle it, Remick takes kind of a risk on what the insurance claims will be, and so you're paying less there. Where everyone else in Remick, it was individual. No one was really. We were only combined to get enough numbers to get discounts from Blue Cross on admin fees, but everyone was their own individual provider. So. So we'll know more Tuesday. I don't know if Katie wants to add anything to that or whatever. Or...
No, Warwick had been in it for so long that I have no idea what the first year piece of it was.
You weren't there when they first went in.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. As long as we can get an update in make
Oh
sure
yeah.
that
Before we
have it.
pass the budget, we have to know that number.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. If just turn to page 2 for one moment, I'm just going to point out if you look at the various, numbers to the far left next to teacher positions and all the way down, those are the number of FTEs in those jobs. And you can see that in every school. So if you go to community, you'll see the same thing. The numbers obviously are different depending on the size of the school. But if you're just curious what that number was, that's what it is. if you go to the next page, there's a bracketed number under material and supplies. That's basically the dollar amount we allowed in those categories. For each school has the same dollar amount. All the elementaries, the school, the 2 middle schools, the same. Have a different amount, but the same concept. They both have the same dollar amount, and that number times the number of students gives you those budgeted amounts. And so, the pretty standard. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the schools as far as their line items. Their line items are, I'd say, probably 99% of what they requested as far as supplies, etc. I would go to page 12. You'll see an increase there under the preschool. Last year, we experimented with trying to hire part-time TAs, and I don't know if we just don't pay enough or the COVID or pandemic and stuff, but we had an awful difficult time of getting them, and so we've gone back to full-timers this year, and rather than 4 part-timers and some full-timers, we've gone to 6 full-time preschool TAs. I would go to next. I'm going to skip the middle schools. There's not much of the middle schools to talk about. Page 21. And you see these same type of under services at the elementary schools and middle schools, but not at the same level or the same number. You see under services, the various programs and that the high school has, from Achieve 3000 to Naviance to Discovery Ed, Ingenuity licenses, Cengage, which I don't even know what it is, but there it is. And so you see those things there that the high school uses. You see kind of in the middle of the page, $67,000 for dual enrollment. That's the program where we pay people to take college courses so that we shorten their college stay. Let's see their line items. I'll go to page 23.
Alex, may I interject for 1 second?
Go
on
right
that?
ahead.
Thank you.
Sure.
When you're talking about that and the dual enrollment and paying people, I'm guessing that's with the specific college and not under the state's now free programs?
That's the program where they call it Running Start, I think, at the high school.
Yeah.
Where students apply to take courses at college,
Right.
and we pay the tuition and we buy the books.
Right. So
Books are ours. We get the books back, but so.
But are they permitted to take courses at any college, or is it a situation that?
No, it's basically at Rhode Island.
CCRI.
CCRI and do we have anyone at Rick, Bob? Do you know?
I don't believe so, but it's
Right.
mostly at CCRI.
Yeah, CCRI is with.
Right. And that's the reason I was asking, because if it's free education for CCRI for those first few years, are we holding those same students to the same standards so that we can obtain reimbursement?
Right. And for transparency, Mike Chandler keeps trying to have us pay a tuition at Harvard for his son, but we have not done that for him.
Okay.
So anyhow,
We'll follow up with that one, I guess, next
Well,
week.
Carrie, I don't think there is any reimbursement from the state. There used to be free.
no, there's no reimbursement. It
Right.
used to be the first 2 years of the program,
Yeah.
and then they stopped reimbursing it.
Yeah, it's
Right.
another unfunded mandate.
That's exactly what I was wondering. Thank you. Thank you. That
Their logic was, at least they used this logic, was that we were getting the state aid for that student, a full state aid, yet they weren't fully enrolled in Cumberland.
okay.
And so they said, oh, if we're giving you $10,000, but they're taking a quarter of their courses somewhere else, we're not giving you $7,500, we're giving you the full 10. So that was the argument they made, and they pushed it onto the schools.
Okay.
Mr. Mitchell.
Chairman, yeah, and just to build on that unfunded mandate, issue. The same is true for the $1 million worth of curriculum that has to be purchased, despite the fact that we have shown significant growth over the last 5 years. So that's another one. We have been fighting to, and some of the other districts who are performing well are in the same boat, but we're being forced to purchase these curricula, despite the fact that we're a top 5 performing district, K-8. One of the frustrations of doing the budget.
Right.
So anyhow, on page 23, you see under equipment, you see $131,000. That's for a purchase of 10th grade Chromebooks that Mike wants to move forward with this year, and part of the rotation that we keep, so that we buy some each year and not get faced with buying, Chromebooks for everyone at one time. And then down below that, you can see how the high school is so much different than the other schools. You see all these dues and memberships and all these different clubs and stuff that they belong to, and from that require dues and whatever. So you see that at the bottom of the page that the other schools don't really have. I go to page 25. That's summer school for ESY. And you see the number $182,000. I'm using the same number that we had in 2020. Last year, if you recall, because of distance learning and the rest of it, we were able to bring that number down because we weren't, children weren't attending in person, so we had less staffing. We didn't have as many TAs and that sort of stuff. I restored the number to the 182. Rachel doesn't really have a number yet. She's working on that. She thinks that it could be higher, but she doesn't think it'll be tremendously higher. And I would just suggest if there's additional money needed, whether it be for transportation, the transportation for this program is in the transportation budget. You'll see that in a moment. That if she needs additional people or transportation, we try to put the new stuff that's new into the COVID money that we're going to be seeing. So right now there's 182, the same amount that we had for FY20. Special education on page 27. You see under purchase services, a number of things that the special ed department need, autism counsel, tutors, nursing, occupational therapy, physical therapy, the Sherlock Center for the Blind. So there's a number of, you see those things and the amount of money associated with them. The nursing number's up a little bit because of a student that's going to be going to school full-time now. So it's going to be required, he has a nurse, and it's going to be require more hours than he was, I think it's a he, I'm saying a he, doesn't really matter. More hours than currently being, receiving services for. So you see the numbers there for psychologists, PT, and the rest of it. So take a look at those. Page 28, that's where you see the special ed tuitions, the $1,250,000 that we're budgeting. We're trying to stay with the same
Hold
number
on,
we
Mr.
had last
Pagano.
year.
Hold on,
Excuse
Mr.
me?
Collins.
Alex, I don't know if this is the appropriate time, perhaps next week when we do our budget hearings about like the nuance and all that. But I noticed that psychologists, under purchase services, contracted mental health, perhaps you have this somewhere else, but one of the concerns is that, in anticipation of kids going back full-time to school, now and then, next year, there's an anticipated mental health crisis. And I want to make sure that maybe it's somewhere else, because I see zeros across contracted mental health. And I see Bob. Bob has an answer. Good.
Mr. Mitchell.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Collins, one of the things that we are going to be relying very heavily on, and I'll say something else about the budget when Alex is done walking you through it, but we have spent a great deal of time identifying how we'll spend the recovery money, both, ESSA 2 and the Biden money. And there's no question that we're going to need some positions to recover learning loss. That's a biggie. But we also know that the money also has to be designated for mental health related issues. So we actually have 3 buckets, 2 of them related to learning loss, and one of them related to mental health. So the only way that we, and I'll, when Alex is done, I'll just give you my, usual spiel on the Cumberland budget. The only way that we can get at those issues, and we know that there are going to be issues. We know there's learning loss like every other district in America, and we know that there are mental health issues. We have started to develop and fine tune a plan to address those issues with that money once we get a better feel for how we can use it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because I have more questions about the ESSER money. I was going to let you finish. I'll let you finish. But the other issue is credit recovery and any sort of remedial over the summer learning. Do we anticipate, I know you had mentioned that there's an anticipated level, but we don't anticipate a drastic need for credit recovery over the summer based on, especially at the high school level. I know across, my district, and I have friends who are teachers, and we all echo the same tone. It's like, whether we pass these kids across the finish line, there's no teacher around who it can't say that we have more kids failing than we've ever had in our entire career. So I don't know if that's something we anticipate too. And we really don't know the final numbers until the end of the year.
Well, and just to piggyback on what you're talking about, and forgive me if I jumped in there before you finished. We know that this is going to be a short summer too. Remember, students are going to be with us until June 25th. And, we have a couple of months that, we'll do the typical things that we do. But I also think that, and you would know better than anybody, given the fact that you are a teacher, I think people are pretty fried. I think people are going to need a little bit of a break, because we've been going at this, for over a year now. So, and I might be wrong, but I think just about everybody needs a break. But we need to start, and I know that Tony DeMona and his team are developing plans to address all of these things. Rachel's involved, Dr. Santa's involved, because we know that there are mental health issues. There's a lot going on, a lot of coordination. And we, Alex has been reaching out to his colleagues, at RIDE and other districts to try and get a feel for how we can spend this money. I mean, and people are all over the place with how the money can be spent. So we're moving forward thinking that we can use the money for those things, increase mental health issues, address learning loss, but we can't supplant what we're already doing, right? So we can't use the money to pay for things that we have already, that we've been budgeting for over last year and in the past. So anyway, we can talk more about that after.
No, I appreciate it. And I know we'll get into more of this next week. So I want to take up too much time. Thanks, Bob and Alan.
Yeah.
So I left off with the special ed tuitions on page 28, $1,250,000. I then take your attention to page 30, superintendent's budget. You see the salary for the superintendent, his administrative assistant with him. And I would point out that's where Steve Adams resides under legal services, your school committee attorney. Next, page 31, the assistant superintendent. That's Tony and his administrative assistant in there. The curriculum people that are part of Tony's budget are in a budget, are in their own separate curriculum coordinator budget that we passed, but that's just their salaries there. You see in his budget, down at the bottom, the 300,000, that's the offset, that's the purchase of some of the curriculum for next year that we talked about when I said we're rolling $300,000 of fund balance in to pay for that stuff. And that's what fund balance should be used for, one-time purchases like that. So, page 33 is the human resource budget. And there's only, and I don't want to, it won't be put on the spot. There's just one new item in there for $13,000. It's for staff services program. I don't know if Katie wants to say anything about it so the committee knows what it is.
Sure, it's the employee assistance program. Mr. Mitchell and I think in my interview when I was hired, we talked about an EAP program and how valuable it is for staff members. And especially this year, I can think of so many people that would have utilized it this year. So we are proposing to add it. And Mr. Mitchell is a big supporter of it, but he can speak for himself.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chairman, just to piggyback on, Katie said it well, but we have, we know that kids are suffering, but we also have adults that are suffering as well. And this is something that we've talked about for the last couple of years. And, when you're in a position where you're really struggling to get, bodies in front of students, it's one of those difficult decisions that have to be made. But we just felt that, especially this year, given all that everyone is through, that we needed to include that in the budget. Thank you.
Over to page 34, the technology budget. We added a position mid-year this year due to the demands placed on that department with what's been happening. A clerical assistant, we've left that in the budget. The person's currently already here, and so that position appears new in this budget, but it's just wasn't funded last year. We found the money another way. You see the various things that Mike has under purchase services. That 96,000 pays for much of the licensing and software that the district has to pay for. We pay for maintenance on our copiers, $30,000 a year. That's that 0.004 cents. So I think it's a little bit less than that now per copy that we make from the for the copy machines throughout the district. You see the Aspen money, the school, which is the district's management system, school management system. And right on down the line, you go down to the bottom, and a big reduction this year because of all the Chromebooks we just recently purchased because of COVID. We've spent probably $500,000 this year already on Chromebooks. And so next year, only $103,000 in there for Chromebooks for the third grade. And the middle school Chromebooks, we purchased them for fifth graders this year, 3 to 5. Those fifth graders will carry them forward. So there's no money in Northam McCourt for sixth grade this year. We feel they'll have them. And then you see the items, the servers, the computer labs, and the Wi-Fi. We brought those forward because we didn't do that $518,000 lease that we were going to do. Most of that stuff was all going there. Mike and I are working on prices now. We may try to purchase some of that this year, so that, like, he needs 10 servers. Maybe we can get 4 or 5 of them this year, and we can reduce those numbers. But on the safe side right now, I wanted to make sure we'd have the money to purchase those needed items. I know, Mike, if you want to add anything about your budget while we're here.
No, I think that pretty much sums it up. Some of the most important things, though, that wasn't purchased this year is those servers that are 10 and 11 years old, that, they are virtual servers. There's one in every building. And it's important that, we get those things replaced, even if it's, a portion of it and we have spares to back it up or something along those lines, but they're well overdue and need to be purchased.
Next is the business office. The middle of the page is $520,000 number. I've just copied that number over from last year. I don't know what that is. That is the amount of money that the town is paying for master leases on our behalf. And what we do at the end of the year, we exchange checks on this so that those expenditures for capital items get recorded on the school books, because they're really, even though the town's paying them on our behalf. They really are our assets and stuff. And so when I know that number, and it goes in, if you look on the revenue page, you'll see that same 520, 123. So it's just a wash. It doesn't, whether we didn't put it in or put it, as long as we handle it the same on both sides, it doesn't matter. So, and then the 80,000 under that, that is the amount of money we're paying on copiers that we recently acquired. When we went out, got new copiers, we actually got they actually ended our old lease. The new lease came in with, it has a lower interest rate. And so, and we didn't pay the last, I don't know how many months were left of the old lease. And so a savings there of $80,000 from the 93. So savings about 14,000. Facilities is next. You see under purchase services, all these different things, maintenance on septic tanks, radon, pest control. These are all services that used to be paid for under our Sodexo contract. That's why you see back in 20, there was nothing budgeted. 21, we budgeted up, was the first time we budgeted them because we ended our relationship with Sodexo Facilities last year. So you see those line items budgeted. In the middle, the last one, 47,064. That is the maintenance on all our energy management systems that we had with E&E. And so that all our schools are under, that's all under maintenance,
Right.
under maintenance contracts. You see below that, you see what our water and sewer bill costs are, about $115,000 a year. The waste removal at the bottom of the page is the contract that a reimbursement we make to the town. The town has the contract, and they bill us for our portion of it. On to the next page. You see repairs of equipment, and you see Univents highlighted. We spent a lot of money on Univents last year at the elementary schools. I brought that down to $40,000 for repairs on those this year. I think that will be okay. Insurance, I've got a 9% increase in there. We've been seeing 10% increases every year. And at the bottom of the page, you see what our cell phone and Cox bills are. Dollar amount on those. Next page, alarm systems that we have, that's Sonatrol, et cetera, in all our schools. You see the paper product line item, 75,000. That's for paper towel and toilet paper, basically. The electricity, we've dropped that based on the net metering that the town has entered into. We're seeing savings and reimbursements from as we sell energy to I think the company is Revity that the town deals with. We've been getting credits. I brought the electric line item down to $500,000. Next page, natural gas. I've left that the same. The cleaning supplies and chemicals, we kind of loaded that budget up last year. When we started the year, we had no idea what we were going to run into with COVID. And I think we can safely cut that budget pretty much in half and bring it down to 60,000. I don't think we'll be facing the same issues next year. Custodial supplies, filters, all these air purifiers we have are going to require change in filters. And
Mr. Collins?
Made an allotment for $60,000 to change all the filters at least once.
All right, hold on, Alex. Mr. Collins?
I just have a quick question. I'm looking.
Dennis, I'm reading. I don't notice hands.
Oh, no worries. So 38 and 39, page 39. I notice on the line item, there's zero next to it, but you have money allocated system-wide. Why is the monastery showing up on the list for supplies?
Because I think the preschool used to be there, so okay. It's just in there. I could take it out. It's an Excel spreadsheet. I guess I could delete it out everywhere.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Then my fault. Yeah, but that's the only reason. We used to rent from there. Oh, and then under electricity, I didn't point out the zero for the glycol, the 150 last year down to zero. And so then on to page 39. I was talking the filters, playground supplies, $24,000. Have some needs with some playgrounds. Some of the members were on the committee last year, remember. that we got a report from facilities about some needs for playground repairs throughout the district. So we've got money in the budget for that. Then the last page, $150,000 for repairs to buildings, thing. It's just a drop in the bucket. It's nothing. We need more money. You see up above that 0 where it was last year, 658 for the security, high school security. That's now gone. So we will finish that project. And so that's gone. Athletics is next, page 41. You see the stipends for coaches at the top. The pupil transportation I've increased because last year we figured there was some sports not running, and so we reduced busing during the year. I think we'll be back to a full sports programs next year, so I've increased the bus budget back to where it should be. And all the
Mr. Pignata, can we get to the major highlights, because there's supposed to be executive session at 6 o'clock.
Okay, I'm gonna go to 4 only because it's 2 big line items there, and then the last page is 45. Transportation's up about $550,000. It's up in a couple of areas. One, the state contract. We had 670 budgeted last year. If you recall, they came in and were going to spend $1,130,000, I think the number was. Then they came back and said, no, the number's going to be more like 770. And so what I've done is I based it off what we're going to spend this year with, what an increase might be. You never know what the rate increase is going to be with them. And so I've added $100,000 to the budget in that line item to be safe. You see the summer school for $1.25 and $50,000. One is state transportation, one's Durham. This is, you see it was 0 last year because of the distance learning. That's back into the budget, $175,000. And then down the bottom, it'd be the $400,000 that we've all discussed in the past. This would be the first $174,000 towards that dollars to get that behind us. Is the charter schools. I'm going with the kids for, and if you see it to the left, this year, 1,146, I've estimated a $200 basic increase, and we'll see what that number ends up being. And then onto the last page, you see our fringe benefits. You see, some big thing, a $6 million one for certified pension, the $9 million for healthcare. That's a 5% increase. You see unemployment was 400,000 last year, the fifth item from the bottom of that page. We've taken it down to 125. And then at the end, because weren't able to really balance this, I've made an assumption that hasn't happened yet. I think we have 4 retirees so far. I've made an assumption that we'll have to address if it doesn't have to happen, that's the breakage for 3 top step teachers retiring and us hiring 3 step 3 teachers, so if three teachers don't retire, then that 96,000 won't happen. I've increased the breakage from 269 to 325, and then the 174 during deferred amount somehow, I take it out here. Also right above that, I should mention, we had 270 plus substitutes last year because we didn't want substitutes roaming from building to building and possibly carrying the pandemic with them. And so there's in for them, there's the regular money in schools for substitutes for illness or whatever, but no specified building subs to the school. And so you see that we get down to a balanced budget with all that. And then down below, I show you the jobs we've added. And I imagine Rachel will talk about these if you have questions. A couple of nights. We've added about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 8 or 9 TAs into the budget that she felt either through IPs or new students that have moved in were a necessity in special ed. So she'll address that. We don't have in the assistant principal is not in this budget. By the way to get that. There's a supervisor that we really feel is the counsel that's not in right now. That may be a position we can put into COVID. And then I think Tony in his curriculum meetings has mentioned to the group about positions that he feels are needed, that he should have, and they should be in the budget, not just for a year or so, but should be permanent positions. Those are not in the budget at this time. They would add about $530,000 more to this budget. Down below that, this is, and this is what Bob may want to talk about, but I'm sure Tony will put a PowerPoint up in front of you to go through the different positions that they're looking to add with ESSA 2 money. I show you the 2,252,000 is what we have coming. Tony's worked on it. We don't really know who the people will be or whatever. So he's made an assumption right now with salary and fringe. He worked with a number of approximately $100,000 a position. It may be, that may be a little bit high, but it's in ESSA right now. They won't be included in this budget. So if it's less than that, it would allow us to have some money to do other things, or maybe to carry some of the positions into next year if needed. And so that's it. The town support at the bottom is something that with the mayor the other day. And I'll just give you an idea, if the town were to raise the levy by 4%, the way it's synchronized with over 2 years, 55% of that would come in next year, 45 come in the current year budget, wouldn't be available to us. So that 55, and if we got 70% of the levy was 70% of the town, I don't think we can make the assumption it would all come to us. Generate a 78. I'm asking the mayor and the town council, and Bob and I are, if they would, the playgrounds that we have, if they would use the impact fees that the town gets to pay for those playground repairs. That seems like a good use for that money. It's people who move into town who use facilities and that type of stuff, right? I'm asking that they include $250 for building repairs, and they took out $400,000 away this year. The mayor's adjusting his budget because all signs show that we probably won't need it. And so the $400,000 that they were going to give us if needed next year, I'm asking them to reprogram. And maybe they do, maybe they pay the electricity bill completely, since it's all being run through their company Revity they have a contract for. So their buildings, if they paid the electric bill, it wouldn't be the end of the world. And they would then keep all the discounts and stuff and not share any of them with us. So just some ways to try to get to $1,848,000. Other people might have other ideas. The mayor and the council may have ideas, or we may not get $1,848,000. None of that's known yet. And then I also show it down below. If raised to be 3%, we'd have 90% of it to generate $1,040,000. And basically the same numbers comes up with $1,814,000. I guess I'd go longer than I thought I would. But at least it gives you a little bit of an idea of what's in the budget and some of the major line items that you can think about over the next couple of days and have to be ready Tuesday night with questions. I'll take you through significant budget changes and how we get from 74,548,000 to 74,361. And I'm sure Mr. Damano will have his spreadsheet on the ESSA 2 positions. And I would imagine, Bob, all of us will be there whenever questions that the committee has, special ed, whatever.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pignano. Anyone? We'll be prepared for this on Tuesday night with the full committee. If there's no questions, we'll move on to the CHS activity report, which normally gets filed if it's in the folder. There is public comment. Mr. Chandler, I don't see anyone raising their hand.
Yep, we have one person in the audience, but I do not see their hand up.
Okay. All right, then I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Collins,
Second.
second by Mrs. Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it 3-0. Thank you. I think they are waiting for us in executive session. Thank you.